So in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about how to update your experience sections on your resume. So the main thing when you're doing, obviously you probably know that, resume section is generally the most important section in your resume. I would say the most important section that is after the professional summary list section, right? So this is one of those ones that you want to take a little bit of time to think about, or how you're going to update and make sure that you have all the correct details that are associated in the job description. Because once you can see that when I was doing research, I saw that much of the time recruiters' eyes goes to the professional summary section, and then they started to read the first and the second sentences of your the experience that you have, right? So this is where I want to give you some tips and advice on how to essentially create a good summary, help you create a good experience section for each of your job roles. Okay, so one of the main things I would say when you're for experience section resumes, I would say list out about 3 to 6 key experiences and companies that are related to the job that you wanted to apply for, right? So only list job roles that are related to your job, that is related to the ideal job that you're applying for, right? So do not try to put all the jobs you have had, but especially if you have specific experiences or responsibility that is in relation, then that's a good idea, right? To put those job roles or job titles that you have had from before. Right, so that's one of the main things. And one of the things that I recommend, right, you do is that you kind of stick with, the about five things here that I've outlined for you when you're updating your experience section, right? So say things like identify things like your past job title, your company name, and then list out 3 to 5 key responsibilities and accomplishments that you had, right? So this is, basically you can talk about specifically what type of responsibilities, because that's what recruiters are generally looking for. It's trying to see if you are able to solve the same problems that you were able to solve the problems that they are experiencing. Right? For example, if you're going to work as a project manager, you want to identify what type of specific responsibilities that you had. You can say you budgeted for projects in about 5 projects. You can say you scoped out 10 projects, right? And you can say you manage tasks and delegated tasks for certain number of projects that worth about specific amount of money, right? So this is the way I recommend that you set up your responsibilities. So take time to really think about what your key responsibilities are, and think about what these responsibilities are that they will be essentially asking. And this information are generally available in job description. So one of the main things that I tell people when somebody's working with me, I tell people to go read about 5 to 10 job descriptions that they can find that is related to their ideal job that they're applying for, right? So you kind of get an idea what type of responsibilities these companies are looking for, right? So you want to know specifically, identify about 5 to 10 job descriptions, obviously, but then 5 to 10 responsibilities that these jobs generally ask for, right? So when you can understand that, then you can convert whatever you're going to write on your resume to match those responsibilities that our companies are asking for. Okay, so that's kind of the way I recommend you take a look at it. So first, do a little bit of exercise, do a little bit of research on how about 5 to 10 job descriptions look like that is related to ideal role, and then identify 5 to 10 specific responsibilities that these companies are asking for that are recurring, right? So certain ones might be keep coming up. So you want to make a note of that and make sure that you bring that into your resume as much as you can. Okay? And then whenever you can, use stats and numbers whenever possible, right? It's not going to be applicable for everybody, obviously, but this is, if you have done, if you work in customer service, you can talk about how many cases that you closed, right? And if you're in a project manager, you can talk about how many projects you worked on, right? And size of your projects also, if it's big enough, right? Large enough. And if you're in sales, you can talk about how much worth of revenue did you sell, right? How many customers did you close, right? And if you're in like digital marketing, you can talk about, how much did you brought to the company using your ads, or how many campaigns, email campaigns you set up, or how many campaigns altogether you set up, right? And how many projects you worked on, right? So you can enter that information in there. You can say, I worked on 35 email marketing campaigns that, serve customers, right? So that number really, I've noticed that when I was doing research, really captures and be as accurate as possible, right? I wouldn't recommend you making up numbers just to impress. That would not be good practice, right? Because when you actually have to go do the experience in real life, you might struggle, right? So start with finding out what are your existing capabilities and existing work that you have done, and see if you can bring those things into numerical value or numbers of some sort. Okay, so same with if you're working in IT, right? You can talk about, if you've implemented software you can see how many users you implemented the software. You can talk about how many companies you implemented the software, right? So that's some of the things that you have available that you can talk about. And the next thing is use action words, and I'll show you what action words are on the next one, right? I'll give you essentially it's words like collaborate. It's words like, let me show you quickly. Manage, orchestrated, guided, mentored, installed, developed, directed, operated, served, updated, solved, won, created, generated, executed, organized, programmed, provided, trained, enabled. So these are some of the words that you can essentially use, right, to start the first sentence of your job responsibility, right, that you had in your previous roles, right? So one of the things that I want to remind you is that the recruiters are more interested to see, right, what you have done, like for example as responsibilities or as problems that you have dealt with, than really what you have to say. So if you can draw a picture basically through like numbers or basically specific words, right, that really helps you come out showing that you have had the right experience, right? Experience that you've identified for the role, right? So this is one of the things that when I was getting interviewed, they would often tell me like that I have a lot of good experience, because the way what I did was I kind of make sure that I identified all the experience that I had using these sample words or sample action words, and made sure that I've identified the number of projects that I worked on, right? Specifically, that's what I did. I worked heavily in project management / marketing automation or marketing digital marketing campaigns. So I really showed how many campaigns I worked for, and what type of tools that I used in that. So that's one of the things that you want to identify in your job experience, is that you want to really talk about your responsibilities. You also want to talk about some of the tools and things that you used in the role, right? Tools and processes that you used in the role, right? So that's one of the main things that you can essentially think about talking about in your experience section. So I'm going to give you a little bit of example on how to create one. So you can see here I've created a simple experience section for one of the roles, right? So this is an example. You can see the way I've identified, right? So you can see provided support and resolved over 500 client issues effectively and in a timely manner. So this is a role, essentially think of it like, if you had a customer service role, saying something like this would be ideal, right? And you can say manage and took ownership of support cases and guided customers with best practices, right? So again, this is more of a support role, but you can see I'm using numbers on the fourth one here. Updated over 20 workstations and servers with security updates and patches to ensure optimal output and quality, right? So this is kind of the way I recommend that you write it, right? Kind of explain and responsibilities that you had, and use numbers whenever possible. Okay, so that's what I have for this video, and I'll see you on the next one.